So welcome to part 3 of the lecture on relapse prevention and management in AOD. Apologies for having to have 3 parts to this lecture. So when we're looking at this repair stage, the main task to the repair stage is just all the fallout and damage caused by being in addiction. It usually lasts 2 to 3 years. In the abstinence stage of recovery, clients are usually feeling better. They're finally taking some mastery of aspects of their life. In the repair stage of recovery, it's not unusual for people to start feeling worse temporarily and to really start to confront some of the wounding and damage that has been caused from their substance use dependency to relationships, to their sense of self, employment, finances, self-esteem, other areas of their life. So the client or the person has to overcome some of the shame and guilt and the negative self-labeling that has occurred during their period of active addiction. Sometimes clients believe that they've been so damaged by their behaviour and that there's just no way to repair with others, that they can't experience joy, calm and healthy relationships ever again. So it's really important to hold the space for clients who are feeling so defeated and just overwhelmed by feelings of shame. I'm particularly interested in the work by Brené Brown, who's a social work researcher, and she's researched the themes of vulnerability and shame. And just applying some of those principles in my work with clients. So some of the tasks of the repair stage are to use CBT to help clients to overcome and challenge some of the self-labels and also catastrophizing that they do as part of their thinking errors, to start to set things right with others and to make amends where possible and where appropriate. I know that for some of my clients that's meant apologizing for some of their behavior, but actively taking responsibility for the wounding that they've caused and some of their inappropriate behavior, being able to display empathy around how they've impacted others wholeheartedly, and to then genuinely want to make amends and earn people's trust back. Also to help clients to start feeling more skilled in terms of managing painful feelings rather than numbing them. So again, developing some distress tolerance and helping clients to become more buoyant and robust, to improve self-care, which is integral to recovery, to develop a balanced and healthy lifestyle, to continue to engage in self-help groups and to actively engage in counselling and all areas, all activities that might actually help them in terms of recovery, and to develop more healthy alternatives to using. So for some people that means reconstructing a life, because perhaps SUD and that lifestyle is all that they have known. So basically they've been stripped away and they're having to almost experience a rebirth, so to speak, of who they are and their relationships with others. Now, the third stage is the growth stage, and that focuses on helping clients to develop skills that perhaps they've never experienced before, and to kind of engage in unlearning some of those maladaptive learned behaviours that predisposed them to a life of addiction in the first place. The repair stage of recovery is about catching up. The growth stage is very much about moving forward, and this stage usually starts 3 to 5 years for some individuals after they've stopped using drugs or alcohol. This is also the time to deal with any family of origin issues, past trauma that may have occurred, and these are issues that clients are sometimes eager to get to, but because they can be very triggering and stressful, if they're tackled too soon, the client may not have the necessary resilience or coping to be able to manage them, which then triggers relapse. So the timing of trauma processing is really, really important. Not to say that it has to be 3 to 5 years in to therapy, but certainly it's not a priority for many of the clients. Now, some of the tasks undertaken in this growth stage include identifying and repairing negative thinking and self-destructive patterns. We often find that people are just so unfamiliar with healthy that they will self-sabotage and just return to familiar ways of being, even though they identify it as being unhealthy, unsafe, dysfunctional. It's familiar. And so it's really interesting how they're pulled back, and generally how we're pulled back into old ways of being. Helping clients understand how negative familial patterns have been passed down. So looking at transgenerational transmission of SUD issues and mental health issues, and helping clients to let go of some of the resentments and wounding, their own wounding. That doesn't necessarily mean them needing to forgive others, but it really does focus on self-forgiveness as well, and almost grieving some of the family of origin issues that contributed to their SUD issue. The growth stage also challenges fears and helps clients to develop a mind-body, spirit sort of connection, using things like progressive body relaxation, breath work, hypnotherapy, and deep relaxation activities. This is where clients start to really put in place really lovely, healthy boundaries. Generally, what we see in clients who are in active addiction is that they present either with collapsed boundaries, that is no boundaries at all, or porous boundaries, or rigid boundaries. So we're wanting to help clients understand the importance of boundaries, to understand what a boundary violation is, so that they can learn to put in healthy boundaries which will lead to healthy relationships with self and others, and allows them to be more self-protective. People start to engage in acts of service, so to give back to community or family or to help others. And it's also a period where people reassess their lifestyle and they make sure that they're on track. So it's about some healthy planning for a healthy lifestyle. So guidelines for relapse prevention. It's important to think about changing the lifestyle. Recovery involves constructing a new life at times, not for everyone, but for some people, in which it will be easier to stay on the recovery path. So thinking about, what do most people need to change? Change to negative thinking patterns, as we've discussed, avoiding certain environmental cues, being completely honest, because at times people have gotten into a pattern of self-protection and using different sort of survival strategies that are linked to their addiction. So we're wanting to really do a lot of value-based counselling, in which we help clients to identify their values, and that serves as their moral compass. We want clients to be able to be active help seekers. Most people start recovery by trying to do it on their own. They want to prove that they've got control over their addiction and that they're not as unhealthy as people might think. Joining a self-help group has been shown to significantly increase the chances of long-term recovery. So practice self-care. Despite its importance, self-care is one of the most overlooked aspects of recovery, and yet without it, individuals can spiral into relapse. So the peer-supported groups are really great in encouraging self-care, but also just going back to really fundamental basic self-care principles as we've discussed. And also this rule about not bending the rules. The purpose of this rule is to remind individuals not to resist or to self-sabotage change by insisting that they do recovery their way. It takes great humility to be open to learning new ways of being. It takes enormous courage as well. That's why I think clients really respond to a Rogerian person-centered way in counselling, where they're viewed with compassion, empathy. The counsellor seeks to understand rather than judge. A warning sign is when clients ask for professional help and consistently ignore the advice, or they drop out of sort of different helpful situations, or kind of alienate themselves from helpful systems and supports. So we encourage clients to live by their values and to be cautious rather than to risk and test some of their resilience learned through recovery. So thank you for your patience in terms of following through this particular lecture series, which is 3 parts. I think it will be very helpful to your assessment. Thanks for listening.